Hello and welcome to the Go Media Podcast. The Go Media Podcast is dedicated to tips, tricks, and tales of the business-minded artist and designer. It's our way of letting you inside of our studio to learn about the ups and downs we face here at Go Media. This is episode 24 and was recorded live on Friday, May 30th, 2014. And today we sit down with WMC Fest Event Director Todd Gauman. Man, is it Gauman?
It is.
All right, let me do that again. Today we sit down with WMC Fest Event Director Todd Gauman to not only help us kick off the new WMC Fest season, but also talk about everything that's happening right now in Cleveland that affects all of us in the creative community. For today's show notes and access to our full archive, you can check out gomediapodcast.com. If you're listening live, you can post your questions and comments in the chat, and we'll bring those into the on-air conversation as we go. With us today is Jeff Finley. Say hello, Jeff.
Hey, everyone.
And our guest, Todd Gauman. Say hello, Todd.
What's up?
My name is Brian Garvin, and before we totally get started, let's get into our quick tip.
Okay, quick tip today is actually, quick tip is from Kim Finley. She says, check your bank frequently for fraud because Go Media recently had a bunch of fraudulent transactions show up in our company's bank account. And so I think one of our business partners logged into our bank one day and saw like a dozen transactions from like Domino's Pizza, FTD Flowers, Finish Line, you know, a whole bunch. And then so Kim was busting her butt trying to contact these companies and get the transactions removed and working with the bank and all that kind of stuff to get the transactions removed. And what was interesting is that we found out that the credit card information that someone obtained was actually from WooThemes.com. So WooThemes, it was like just a day or two later after we had this, they sent out an email and a blog basically saying that their site was hacked. A ton of people were complaining about fraudulent card, transactions showing up in their bank. So WooThemes was hacked. Lots of people's credit cards information was stolen and actually used. So a lot of their customers were fighting for refunds and they were hating on WooThemes, and oh man, it was a disaster for them, and they had to switch to different payment gateways and all that stuff. So fortunately, we check our banks regularly, and we noticed stuff going on right away. It wasn't like, sometimes you might get like a small transaction that you may not recognize, and if you might not even think about it. But when you get like hundreds of dollars worth of goods from the mall like going on, then it's definitely bad. So fortunately for us, the companies that the people bought from were good about removing it and noticing right away. Some of them even like reversed the transactions before we even said anything. So that was kind of cool. But KeyBank, on the other hand, our bank was a little slow. They wanted us to fill out a bunch of paperwork and get it notarized and signed, like official complaint dispute forms, and we were on getting the runaround on different people from their fraud department to their customer service to their business department. It seemed like no one quite knew what to do, even though they all thought that they had the answer. It was just really kind of confusing. But I think now that it's been a couple weeks and I think we're getting all the transactions finally out of our account. But man, what a pain.
That's a hassle.
So quick tip is just keep an eye on your bank and make sure that nothing like that happens. And also, a service, think of how many times you use your credit card. Like WooThemes, we trust them. We buy a ton of stuff from WooThemes, like they're so many web companies do, and so we just happen to be involved in that. So that's it.
Good tip.
All right. Well, today's conversation we're going to be doing two main topics basically. WMC Fest 5 obviously is going to be a big one. That's a major reason why we brought Todd today, because he's one of the biggest guys involved in that. But there's something else going on in Cleveland right now that I think we all need to have just a conversation about and make everyone aware of what's going on and maybe see how it affects us, how it affects WMC Fest in some ways, if there are any ways. And yeah, overall, the real brief story from what I've read, the Loren Naji Gallery basically has been shut down twice by the city of Cleveland or higher-ups basically in the city, and they're basically just an art gallery, just a local art gallery, local artists, other artists that are involved, and it's just one thing after another. and there's a lot of hoops that are being jumped through to try and get legit or get above whatever code is involved here, but still not seeming to get anywhere despite a lot of positive talk from politicians and whatnot. So, Todd, you're really involved in that side of things too. So why don't you just kind of brief us on how this all started, what's going on, and let's start this conversation.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting situation. I think that in my experience, you try to take the negatives and turn them to positives, which is much we as creatives. It's really what we do. We think outside the box. We find new ways of approaching things and finding solutions in creative ways. So. For all the detriment that the situation is, I think there's going to be a lot of good, or there's the potential for a lot of good to come out of this. And there's an opportunity here for the city of Cleveland to really put a substantial commitment and foot forward to the creatives in the city. So, in regards to the specific issues with Loren's particular challenges.
Yeah, let's hear some backstory.
Yeah, the backstory. I mean, it happened a few weeks ago. He had a opening for some local artists. Those local artists, ironically, also were graffiti or street artists, graffiti artists. So on the date of the opening, Cleveland Police Department showed up around 6 o'clock or so, right as they were getting ready to open. They said they had a noise complaint that they had to show up. Loren, as many art galleries do, was serving beer and wine at no charge, as I said, many art galleries do. He had a band playing. There was a donation bucket for the band. When Cleveland Police Department showed up, they basically said, do not charge any money for the alcohol. Other than that, everything looks good, fine, and they went about their business. An hour later, approximately 7-8 state liquor agents showed up, along with one, from my understanding, one or two Cleveland police officers. The Cleveland police officers were there as a department or a departmental liaison, them being the enforcing agency for the city of Cleveland. The state liquor agents were there. They had a call or a complaint from a civilian concerned that there was illegal alcohol consumption at this opening. So they came in, they basically shut the gallery down, they shut the opening down, they confiscated, with illegal search and seizure, mind you, confiscated his all the alcohol.
Like $600 worth?
$700 worth. He had a table in his back room where he just puts, it's all beer, wine, and he serves food. As I said, this is a standard practice. I've been to art openings in numerous states and numerous cities all across North America, and it's a kind of a standard practice that you have a little beer, wine, some cheese, some crackers, whatever. It imparts, a communal kind of spirit or camaraderie to a gathering like that. He was just doing what everybody else does, and so he was shut down. There was, in the light of that happening, there were some issues that came to be that he did not have a occupancy permit for the building. The state said that he was illegally distributing alcohol, which that now it brings to light or shines light on a larger issue.
Because he didn't have a permit or an F2 permit, or he didn't have a nonprofit.
No, most galleries don't. The fact of many people have responded in specifically regarding that issue of, oh, well, an art gallery can pull a F2 permit. I've been in the events industry for over 20 years. I've pulled a lot of F2s in my time. An F2 is not an answer to an art gallery of that size. An F2 can only be pulled by a nonprofit. They can only pull it a certain number of times a year. There's a lot of stipulations. It's $175, $150 for an F2. And there's a lot of, and then you also have to purchase the beer or the wine directly from the distributor. So there's a lot of issues in regards to that, especially if you're talking a 500 square foot art gallery that does art opening. Maybe they do an opening once every other month. So you're talking 6 openings. So now you're asking that art gallery to go find 6 nonprofits to basically sponsor them. It's not a solution. Now,
and they're not a bar. They're not like they don't need a full-fledged liquor license.
Right. And it's usually just for one night. They're not looking. It's not a party. They're not trying to sell. They're just there to like I said, it's to imbibe a bit of a communal spirit.
I've always seen that, like, when people I know were throwing sort of an event or a show, and then they said it's okay if you give away beer for free because then it's like a private party.
It's a gray law. It's
always this gray area, and everyone says you can just do it.
It's a gray law, and the state admits to it, and liquor laws are all adhered by state governments. So each state is different. I don't know of any state out there that has addressed this issue. This is why, again, turning those negatives to positives. This is a chance for the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio to really address an issue that maybe wasn't an issue, but now we've got some black and white, formulation to it, and so that if I'm an art gallery owner, that there's a solution out there. So I think this, and it seemingly the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio are interested in looking at this. Like I said, this could be a positive that we could become the first region in the country to address this issue.
And it's not just the liquor thing, because that was the thing, and then they had another event a few weeks later, and then they got shut down again because they said they didn't have an occupancy permit. Yes.
So in between, there was a 2-week period in between the first shutdown and the second. In that period, Councilman Joe Simperman was working with Loren Naji along with the Development Corporation, being Ohio City Inc. They were working on some solutions towards Loren's specific problems. Again, there was an occupancy permit issue that they were working on. They had filed a temporary permit for him. Under that guidance, there was an assumption that he would be able to hold an event, be able to allow people inside his building with that temporary permit. It seems there was some communication breakdown amongst the city governance between the Department of Public Safety and the Building and Housing Department. In that he was allowed, or that one department was saying that there was an allowance that he could have had people in there with this temporary permit, and another said no. So again, these vaguaries, to get caught in these gray areas is not a fun thing. I've talked to, and looking at this drawing out, and so one of the things about this is that we have some challenges. We have some challenges to the creative entrepreneurs in the region. I think this is, Loren has some specific challenges, but I think they address some larger things. One of Loren's issues, in building permits, I've talked to several business owners, and there's not a 101 to business from the city or from some of the civil or civil administration entities that you have to process these permits through. I work at a music venue, and there's dance permits. There's certain permits you have to pull that, unless somebody is sitting there saying this is what you have to pull, This is what you have to. These are the steps. If you're given steps and you don't follow those steps, then bad on you. You didn't. But the problem here lies that there is no, the city doesn't, you don't go in and say, I'm going to open an art gallery, or I'm going to open a retail location in this area, and you don't go to the city doesn't give you this is step 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what you have to do. You kind of, have to be a little savvy, you have to be a little bit forward in trying to figure out those ways and means. I've dealt with permitting for a long time, just being in the events industry, doing special events, especially in public areas. There's a lot of puzzle pieces in guys to that. I can honestly say, and I did have a conversation with Councilman Simperman that 3-4 years ago, in terms of permitting, just talking specifically for special events, it's a very tangled process. And what I found was I had left Cleveland for a while. From 2003 to 2010, I was living in Florida. I was doing events all across North America for a large marine company. And the thing that I saw was when I came back to Cleveland, to run permits for certain special events, whether you're closing a street or you got to pull a liquor permit or anything like that, what I was seeing in other cities was there was a 1, 2, 3 step process. If you go to the city of Columbus, they have a whole entire website dedicated to special event planners where they give you these 101s. This is what you have to do if you're intending on doing this. Mm-hmm. Go to the city of Cleveland, and the right hand has no clue what the left hand is doing. Again, these are faults, these are weaknesses, but I see them as opportunities. The way that I see it, the city of Cleveland right now has an opportunity to really stand in place, hit the pause button, see what's wrong with the overall system and fix it. To me, what I'm seeing on the administration and the processing level with the city of Cleveland is the same thing, the same procedures, formats, and processes that I saw as a young event planner in the mid to late 90s. Some things have never changed. You cannot, I believe in adaptation. You have to be able to adapt to be successful. The city of Cleveland is not, they do not know how to adapt. You have, a good old boy standard that has been intact with governance here for a very long time. There's been trends to break away from that, but for governance to break out of its norms and means is a sometimes a very arduous process. But I think again, we're at an opportunity here to change some things that will allow people like special event planners to come in, or for art galleries that want to do a special event, or for an artist that wants to do perhaps a public art display. Mm-hmm. So I think opening those processes and taking a real hard look at how those things are done and seeing how we can adapt those to modern day or contemporary times. So
I think that there's a couple issues. Here's like the main sticking point, because why this whole thing has created a ton of drama on social media, and we gathered people to march to City Hall a couple weeks ago. You got in an argument with the councilman. There's you were on the local news, whatever. You were talking with the mayor, and then it's almost like there's all this up in arms, sort of because one person, Loren Naji, had his gallery shut down, and then he had it shut down again. It almost feels like he's the poster child for the artist entrepreneur, the creative entrepreneur here in Cleveland. And then look at the city trying their hardest to make it hard for him. And then at the same time, they're also trying to use the arts community to market themselves as a cool, hip place to be and live and work and create. But we're also not really helping the artists. We actually talked about this with WMC Fest. It's been in Cleveland for 5 years now, and we've been largely doing it ourselves, right, without the help of the city. But when we try to go get help from the city, it almost seems like they're cool, good job, but they don't really want to. They think it's a great thing. They want to use it to help make the city look cool. But then at the same time, they don't really make it easy for you to do what you're trying to do, like giving you access to resources and funding and making it simpler for you or guiding you through it, or even just promoting you or helping you get the exposure that you need. So they want to encourage creative entrepreneurship in Cleveland, but then they're not really doing a great job of it. So there's like this example, this Loren Naji thing has sort of been this explosion that's basically saying we've got a protagonist and we've got an antagonist. You've got a group of people that are like anti-fun, anti-arts, anti-creativity, anti-entrepreneurship. They just want the police to enforce all these laws without really looking at the laws themselves. Are they how relevant are they? It's kind of like, hey, you violated that building code. Well, you don't deserve to get what you want. Like, I don't care. You just need to play by the rules. These are the rules. Like, cops, go get them. And it's like, let's just look at what we're doing here. Like, and then we're seeing like a lot of not rumors, but there's a lot of talk about, well, we're just not going to live in Cleveland anymore. So it's like there's this Cleveland creative renaissance, and then now there's sort of this bubbling up of a backlash. So Cleveland has an opportunity to use this backlash to kind of further their reputation as a cool, creative, hip city to live and work in. So this is what they want. So this is the perfect opportunity for them.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I feel, there's a lot of anger in the community, and I think, we often view anger as a negative thing, and I think that, if used in creative ways, it can be a positive thing, and that's why I really, really emphasize, like, to me, I'm a middle-aged event planner. I have a real passion for Cleveland because it's my hometown. I can identify with the underdog because I grew up in Cleveland. But at the same time, I've also lived elsewhere and seen other communities. I've invested in other communities. I really think that, I oftentimes, over the past 2 weeks, I think the greatest reflection I've had with everything that's going on concerning the creative class in the city and what's happening with Loren and all this, I keep coming back to it was 1998, 1999, and we were trying, there was many of us leaders in the creative community that were trying to get the penny for the arts tax put together. This was around the same time that the Cleveland Partnership for Arts and Culture with Tom Shorgel was put together. There were some really great movement and advances. We had a mayor who was Jane Campbell at the time, who who was an ardent supporter of the arts or of the creatives. Unfortunately, she had no political power. Half of this game is politics that we're playing, and politics is no more than the transition of power. And using the influence of power. So, at that time, there was a lot of investment, there was a lot of there was a lot of enthusiasm, there was a lot of energy towards the arts. And at that time, there was many of us, we felt like we were in the trenches fighting a battle. And I kind of feel the same way now. Part of the reason that I left Cleveland was because that there was a certain amount of success. There was the arts tax was passed. The county finally put some identity and put together the arts and cultural committee or organization. So there was some honest investment, but I just didn't see the results that I wanted personally. So I left, and I kind of feel the same way now. Like I said, this is an opportunity for us as a region to really look and see, with our creatives, as how to invest in them into that class. And it's these small independent arts and cultural entities that really fuel these neighborhoods, that change, that transform the neighborhoods, and they do it through creation. They do it in positive means. There was a great article yesterday by Stephen Litt, which if anybody who's listening has not read it, please take some time. It's on Cleveland.com, and it discusses ways of approach to some of the challenges that the region faces. And it's a real honest approach, and these are the things that that I look at when you talk about the creative class. It's an economic driver for cities. As much as we laud our sports here in Cleveland, there is as much being done by the creatives in the city as in terms of economic development and in terms of communal development or developing these communities. The arts is the glue that holds those communities together. I've been in terrible, not terrible, but I've been in challenged communities where people are insetting themselves into these communities and using the arts to first, gather the community to bring some awareness, meet your neighbor kind of thing, and then use it to kind of change those communities. There's people in Glenville and Huff that are doing that. There's people that are in the central neighborhood doing that. There's some really amazing, wonderful people out there doing these things. I think, Jeff, you and I had an opportunity a few weeks ago or a month ago to go to Cleveland Collectivo, which was out at Launch House in Shaker, and there was 32 applicants. And if you don't know if anybody listening doesn't know what Collectivo is, really quickly, it's a group of independent or private citizens who've come together. They all pitch in money into a kitty, and then that money is kind of divvied up amongst projects that they vote on. So we were part of that, and so there was 32 people there, and man, I walked out of there and I was like, that is what is Cleveland. That is what makes a city. That is what makes a community. There was 32 really amazing ideas, all different and all warranted.
Yeah, they would get up there and pitch, about their idea with hopes of getting voted on to receive a prize, So, and just all the ideas that you heard were just like, wow, that was really innovative. That's actually cool. I hope that happens. I hope that happens. Right. And you see all this sort of positive, projects that people are willing to just go do the work, and it's not just talk. It's that they're trying to do the work, and this stuff is happening. And then sort of but when you see the kind of top-down bureaucratic, it's just kind of as a wet blanket on a lot of these ideas and projects. It's like you can't. I don't know what it has always been the stumbling block. If it's politics, if it's power, if it's because they've got a dozen different initiatives, all of equal importance, trying to take precedence. You've got the arts community saying, "Hey, the arts is the thing. We need to support the arts." And then you've got the sports community, which is invest in the Cleveland Browns and the casino, and then the convention center and the what about our healthcare industries? That's Cleveland right there. That should be first and foremost. So what is your opinion, Todd, on where it all stalls out? It seems like this conversation happens all the time, but
it's the middle ground. Cleveland has, and I think this is part of why I love Cleveland. Cleveland has such great arts and cultural resources. I didn't grow up in a city that lived in a cultural void, meaning that if you sought out those things, you could find them between the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Contemporary Museum of Art here. Now we have our big MoCA. Even before the front runner, before that, the Cleveland Opera, the Cleveland Orchestra. I mean, there's some on the top level. We are the region as a whole is very blessed with some amazing artistic and cultural resources and organizations. What happens, in my belief or my opinion, it's somewhere in the middle. The city, of course, is an ardent supporter of the arts, and when they do, they like to point out the Cleveland Orchestra or the Cleveland Museum of Art. To me, those are very important pillars in the region. But when you filter down, there's not the same level of support for the smaller voices. And to me, it's the smaller voices that, again, those are the people on the street that are making a difference in those communities. And as what I've seen, it's you got to chip this out block by block. It's not an overnight thing. It takes people that are active in their community, that go to their block clubs, that invest in their community, and that bring those smaller arts and cultural resources to the communities. I think there's some great things that I think what you're starting to see is you're starting to see some of those nonprofits, those bigger things. Cleveland Orchestra, they're now reaching out into places like Happy Dog. They're reaching out into doing free shows at in communal spaces, whether it be a public park or a church. You're seeing these top up, and I think that's needed. So many people when you start talking about arts and culture, they're like, oh, here we go. They're going to want, who's going to roll out the wallet? It's all about it. Seemingly, it's about all of the creatives want is they just want money, and it's not really about that. I think some of these people, all they don't need so much money. They need support. They need to be uplifted. They need amplification for their small voices. And I think, to me, if I look at this, and the immediate answer for me, in my opinion, as to how we can start to leverage this for the city, coming back to what the greater discussion, is a arts advocate that works for the city. So this person is out there in those communities, helping those small ones, helping the smaller independent voices, and resourcing them with the larger entities. Cleveland Orchestra may have never even thought about Happy Dog until Sean Kilbane and Sean Watterson went to them and said, hey, here's an idea. Let's look at this. But again, there are two people who were very active in their community who reached out. But oftentimes people don't. If you're somebody who runs a music program in Huff, you may not have the resources that Sean and Sean did in at Happy Dog. I think it's important to have somebody. It's that mid-level and the small level, and it's not always that they want money. They just need support and they need assistance in resourcing.
Especially when there's especially when there's paperwork and permits and red tape and all this other stuff that's oh, whoops, looks like you, the artist, didn't get it figured out. Now we're going to shut you down and make you an example. It's that's the opposite of support. What you need is someone to say, oh, that's a great idea. Here's what you need to do to make sure you do it legitimately, because in the arts community and music and everything like that, a lot of stuff happens illegitimately. They just, oh, here's an abandoned building. Let me take that and let's just throw a party in there with a bunch of bands. It's sounds cool. You create community out of that, even if it's all positive. That just can't be happening. And I think it was it Henry that said this? If Loren Naji had a hip hop community in there with a lot of African Americans and Latinos, then everyone in the city would have been oh, I'm so scared, you know what I mean? Because that's how they treat it. But it's a weird thing in that regard. So anyway, you've got artists using abandoned spaces and rusty old stuff to kind of turn into art, and they take the spaces that no one else will take. But then if they want to get legit, there's this all of this paperwork and money and expenditure and resources that they need to have in order to get legit, and then by what all they're trying to do is make sure that they survive. They're doing something that's art related typically, or community focused, which is to help or to offer value or beauty to whatever it is that they're doing, not necessarily to make a lot of money. So there isn't a lot of money to pay for the standard organizational practices. But then if you have the arts advocate person, they can say, here's what you need to do.
Right. I mean, here's a really quick hit, on this, is that there's two industries that I can point out that the city of Cleveland has put some identity and focus to, and has had some success with, and it now has the ability to kind of elevate those industries. One is actually part of the creative class, which is the culinary industry here in Cleveland. If you talk to people in the culinary industry, the past 5 years have been really transitional. They didn't do this without a fight, though. It wasn't so long ago that you couldn't have any type of, chickens or poultry or anything like that in the city. There was agrarian laws that prohibited that. There has been, that the city has changed. A lot of that is due in part that we have some some really people who again are active in their community. Michael Simon, Jonathan Sawyer at Greenhouse. There's you could go on and on and on, but these people this didn't happen overnight. This was something that happened, both in the city administration level of changing some of those laws so that you could have, a garden, that you could have chickens in your backyard. So all of that took some change and some process, but again, you're seeing an industry that now is flourishing. The same could be said for the industry of sustainability. Cleveland has really put some emphasis into sustainability practice and procedure. Very, very important. Again, looking at it from an economic impact, that the creative class or the creative arts has as much of an economic impact as does sustainability and coming up with sustainable practice. The city has put some mindset. We have a director of sustainability with the city. So I think those quick hits is get an arts advocate in there. Look at permitting and processing, both across building and housing as well as special event permitting. Live work zones. There's, I've seen great projects in other cities. They're in Tampa, outside of their entertainment district, which is called Ybor City. There was a large housing tract. They went in 10 years ago. They basically reconstructed the housing there, and when they did, though, they also built artist live work spaces within that zone. So you had artists that started living in that community as well, and they could run their small little galleries in part of the house and live in the other part of the house. So it works. I mean, it really works having these artists. I think you're going to start to see that. One of the neighborhoods that I would watch over the next 5 years is the neighborhood of Waterloo, or the Waterloo Arts District that sits in North Collinwood. Really, really interesting neighborhood, and the Development Corporation there is really taking an arts-minded approach to developing the neighborhood there. They've got, there's a grant program up there now with artists that there's live workspace. So there's, I think, 20 some artists that have been given a house that they're going to be living in one section and curating the other section of the house. Again, it's these small things. Cleveland has enough vacant housing. I think you saw an amazing, and I honestly can say that I was not able to get there. And this is one of the things I'm really amiss about I believe it was last Saturday or Saturday before, or 2 weeks ago, in Slavic Village, where you had, again, a whole slew of artists come into the neighborhood. They were given abandoned and vacant houses to kind of go in and create art in. So, again, adaptation, adapting. Not using this cut, copy, paste mentality. Using that mentality is going to get a region or a city nowhere. There's some really great cities out there that all we have to do is look and borrow from. It's not that hard. Providence, Rhode Island has an excellent city administered arts program. Columbus, I think, does a really excellent job of looking at its creative class and looking how it can grow that. Like I said, there's a lot of cities out there that we can lay claim to as being positive towards its arts or creative industries. And like I said, I think this is an opportunity for Cleveland. Now, I can also say that in 3 or 4 years' time, if Cleveland still is dragging its feet, me as a creative, I'm out of here. I hate to say that, but you can't. There's only so many times, and we're only granted so many years on this planet, and there's only so many times you can kind of be pushed through the wheel until you start to feel like a hamster. So I really, really, with all sincerity, hope this is the time. This is now that we can start to look at these things. And yeah, coming back, people are upset, people are angry. So it's how do we use that anger in a positive, solution-oriented kind of way?
Do you know where this all trickles down into like the schools? I always hear people complaining that the arts and music is getting removed from the school programming, but then I also hear the same thing about
sports.
Athletics are getting removed,
Right.
and you know everything is getting removed or whatever, depending on who you talk to. But
School's going to be like a la carte one day.
school's just going to be about like, okay, here's your geometry and here's your your English and history homework, and then everything else is just like, not required.
Kids are like, so proficient on technology anyway. By the time they're 5, they're already coding. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that you kind of bring that, and maybe it's I don't know where we're at in time, but maybe a good segue to kind of WMC and some of the things that we're doing, because education was one of those things that we kept hearing from the many people that we talked to. So. And what I'm referring to is a special segment of WMC that Jeff and I have been focused on, titled Inclusivity, Exclusivity in the Creative Class. And this kind of project, if you will, kind of arose. I think it's been bubbling there for a couple years, especially for you. But I think it really kind of came into ground last year at WMC. With Jeff and I attended a seminar that was done by the Ohio Black Designers. Did I get that?
It's the Organization of Black Designers,
Okay.
but the Ohio chapter, Northeast Ohio chapter of it, yeah.
And so it was a discussion about racial issues in the creative class, or for designers specifically. And Jeff and I were in a room with, there was maybe 25 people in there. Jeff and I were the only white dudes in the room. And we came out of there, and it was like a really kind of transformational moment. I still can remember walking out of that room and looking at you, and we both kind of looked at each other. We're like, whoa, like, everybody needs to hear this. Where is everybody? And like, we're the white dudes. Who should be hearing this? And it was, a lot of people in the room were minorities, and it was a discussion that needed to be heard. So I think that was like kind of the
and then this year we just wanted to expand on that and then put that in front of more listeners and more people. So that's going to be on the main stage this year. We're really working hard to craft. Actually, it's going to be 2 days. There's going to be 2 different ones. One's going to be on racial and cultural, African American, Latino, and stuff like that in the creative class. And then also the second one is going to be on gender, LGBT issues, and those kinds of ideas and issues that we face there. And so both of those reserve like long, good conversations. But the problem that has always kind of come up on these types of things is people are afraid to talk about it because they're fear of, especially if they are of a majority, they feel like they don't want to say anything wrong. They don't really know what the position is. They feel a lot of guilt because they feel like maybe they're part of the problem, but they don't know what to do about it, and they don't know who to talk to about it, and maybe they don't feel directly involved, or they don't feel like, I'm not a racist person, but then it is they don't know exactly how they are part of the problem, and how they can be part of a solution. So like, what is the problem that creatives in design face? I think like Jacinda Walker was saying something around like, especially in design, like, what was it, like, I don't know, 10% or 2% or something like that, minority, or something ridiculously like low like that, and she's dedicated her later career, post-college career, to diversity in graphic design. It's so interesting, so specific, but she's like uncovering so many nuggets of information and meeting so many people with great stories. And when we heard from her on how she's an educated black woman, and she had a really interesting story about how she first encountered discrimination when she went to get her portfolio review or something like that. And so she's at the portfolio review. She's one of the only, I think, was she the only black designer at the portfolio review? And then the person reviewing her portfolio said, "Wow, you speak really well for a black girl." Like, and that she was just like, "What?" Like, "Oh, interesting." And then she was sort of defending, "Well, like, I grew up in an educated family. My mom didn't let us speak slang in that." And so she just went on trying to impress the lady to hopefully get a job or whatever like that. She didn't even really know that she was being discriminated against until she told her mentor, and she says, well, that is not okay. You do realize what just happened there? And she explained it to her, and her light bulb went off, and then she had another experience at another job interview where they, they were like unprepared to interview a black girl for their company. It was just like totally weird. And this is happening in 2010, 2011, 2012. This is happening today. So
yeah, it's been amazing in talking with Jacinda and with even some of our own team members and with Phyllis Harris from the LGBT Community Center. It's been a really enlightening. But to come back, I mean, the common thing that I keep hearing from everybody that we've talked to, and where, because we keep asking, like, the simple question is where is all of this stemming from? And the simple answer to that we have found is education. Is that seemingly is what everything is coming back to, is, which is makes a lot logic sense, because we kind of are a product of our own environment and those things that we grow up with, and you're kind of those impressions and those values and those morals and kind of the perspectives are ingrained into you as a child, and so if the environment is less than, then you kind of come out of that with those viewpoints, and then once it's ingrained, it's a really hard thing to fight. So I think Jacinda, her, which I think again is the more I think about it and the more I've talked about it and the more that we've listened, comes down to mentoring. It's a huge, we need more mentors out there. If you're a professional creative, go find somebody and mentor them. Like it's seemingly that's a, which I think it gets to the heart of WMC, and I think why we have such success with it is because in a way it's communal mentorship.
Exactly.
Of what we're doing. We talk about these transcendental or moments, or these inspirational moments, but I think what it is WMC is no more than group therapy on a large scale.
Basically is, yeah.
And it's communal mentoring, making those connections and resources and people and networks that can assist you, help you, and I think we tend to identify things as being so age specific, and I maybe it's just because I'm getting old, but I often I don't really identify with age, so I think. But there is some things to be lent towards age for experience, that of allowing and sharing that experience with those who are just kind of starting their paths or their journeys in life. So yeah, it's kind of but yeah, it comes down to education. I mean, which again, like, and if we kind of backtrack to the city of Cleveland again, people will move to Cleveland. They'll move into the city of Cleveland. When do they move out? When they start having children. Again, our school district. Oh my, we could probably do a 15-hour podcast on the educational system in Cleveland. But I think again, it's using those large resources, the Cleveland Museum of Arts, the Museum of Contemporary Arts, integrating them into our school system. We could have. Think about an amazing school system. I mean, I said I wouldn't talk about the chandelier, but many people know I am not a big fan of the chandelier. But I look at some of the money that was spent towards that, and imagine if we would have taken $3 million instead of doing a chandelier. And again, I'm not going to argue about the chandelier, whatever. It's up, it's there, and the funding came from Playhouse Square. They have every right, or Playhouse Square Foundation. They have every right, whatever, to spend their money how they see fit. What an amazing thing it would be if they took that money and instilled it into the school system and injected it into the school system with an arts program. With, again, we have these amazing resources. We have Cleveland Museum of Art. We have Cleveland Institute of Art. We have, which in terms of design, like, has had some luminaries come out of there. We have, Cleveland Orchestra. What if we took, $10 million instead of a flippin' scoreboard, and we invested $10 million into our school systems by linking those great arts and cultural organizations into our schools.
It's probably really hard to do that.
It's bureaucracy,
and the return on your investment you don't really know, and someone's got a different agenda that you're trying to.
Well, the return on your investment is your children. So,
Yeah.
and which your children, not to sound like Michael Jackson or whatever, we are the world, but the children are the future. You have to invest in you have to invest in kids. It blows my mind that
well, they feel like they are investing in kids. They
with a chandelier.
Yeah. Well, like if you
So I can take my 3-year-old son, not that I have a 3-year-old son, but take him and stare at the chandelier. What does that do?
No, but doesn't it seem like that there has always been so much talk of school system reform, and then now it's standardized testing. It seems like that has been their idea of reform and how they're going to make school systems better, because people complain about the quality of the teachers, and they need to be able to hold teachers accountable. And one of the best ways to do that is to make everything standardized so they can really compare who's doing what. But it seems like everyone hates standardized, processing. If you've watched any sort of documentaries about the school system or whatever, you see like you've got a country like Finland who's consistently the best, one of the best schools in the world, and here's how they do it. How come no one else does it? Like the kids have like hardly any homework. The kids only come to school like for 4, 5, 6 hours a day. They're all happy. There's tons of arts. They're like, they're making music in one class. They're drawing in another class. Oh, they're studying the stars in another class, and they're all really intelligent and stuff like that. But then again, you've got the income disparity. Finland doesn't have that. Everyone's kind of well off or decent. Mm-hmm. And you've got in Cleveland, there's like a lot of poverty, and all the way up to, the income disparity is very large. You can't make a system like Finland function in Cleveland, but I think that you can continue to put
imbibe parts that.
Yeah, you can get inspired by that.
The success, mm-hmm. Right. No, I don't. Again, I think Cleveland has to do it in its very own Cleveland-esque way.
Yeah.
As Cleveland has always done. That's, again, I have a passion for my hometown. We do things like nobody else does things. We're kind of innovators because, I think it's that Midwest, that Rust Belt mentality, if you will, that it's a can-do attitude. It's tenacious. It's plucky. It has resolve. That to me is Cleveland. I think we're at a change, and it's going to be interesting over the next 5 years to see if we can really make a difference with the momentum we have right now. And that's the thing coming back to Loren is that was that it wasn't really. It's not the specificity of what Loren's challenges are. It's taking advantage of the emotion out there, which is anger, and using that in pushing a positive momentum forward. But
yeah,
we should talk more about WMC.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good segue to our midway break.
Yeah. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a quick break to get a glass of water, turn the AC on because it's getting kind of hot in here. And when we come back, we'll start talking about WMC Fest and all the cool things that are happening this year. And yeah, go from there. So for those who are listening on Mixler, you're going to get some music. For those on YouTube, you're going to get a "Be Right Back" sign and some silence for the next 5-6 minutes or so. So stay tuned.
Get a walk around.
And really, while we're on break, let's take a quick moment to talk about some of the changes going on with the Arsenal. Arsenal.gomedia.us. We've got an updated design that Jeff, Dave Daverson, and I have been working on pretty much on a daily basis. It seems the last couple of weeks for sure. We've just been trying to make things better, trying to update everything, make sure everything's working on all devices, and really having a whole lot of fun doing some webmaster style get-togethers where we all crowd around a desk and design together. It's been really fun. It's quite a few new products have also been released since the last episode, including outdoor mock-up Photoshop templates, building billboards, street banners, vinyl window graphics, all kinds of cool stuff. Things that really became useful for us when we were redoing the graphics on the building. But anyways, check out arsenal.gomedia.us. We're going to be right back in a few minutes.
just do it and fail fast and all that kind of stuff. So he wants to put that up for a formal debate. And how reasonable is it? How feasible is it? What are the pros and cons? Is it really something that is it just a mantra that we like to bandy around, but no one does it? What is it? So I think what we'll expect at the Designers Debate Club is going to be pretty interesting, the way that they format it, like a true debate. I think it'll be cool. And so for some of the workshops that we've got lined up, Bill, Go Media Bill, is going to be doing a Drawn to Business of Design workshop, where teaching you how to charge for what you're worth, how to freelance better, how to start your design firm, worry about all the project management and all this kind of stuff. So he founded Go Media. You guys know all that. You guys know Bill. So I'm sure his workshop will be awesome. And then we've got a really interesting workshop that Todd's looking at over there called Creativity, Flow, and Resilience. Create Your Own Brain. There's a woman I met a couple weeks ago. She runs Somo Leadership Labs, and they love to dig into how and why a creative person functions the way they do, and what we need to do. What does our mind and mental state need to be in to function at our best? And there's a lot of talk about flow and like getting into the zone. So what is that? How do we get into the zone? How do we use that to maximize our creative performance? So if you're an artist, a musician, designer, that like a lot of times your day-to-day is very up and down. Like you'll have moments of what you feel like are extreme brilliance, and you'll be like creating and you'll be on it, and then days you'll be like you don't feel like doing anything or getting out of bed. So there's like this sort of creativity roller coaster that you ride on, and you got to figure out how to use that. So I'm really looking forward to that. It kind of gets into consciousness and our state of being, and it's really interesting. I think that'll be cool. What are some of the other workshops you got?
You got the Igloo Letterpress.
Yeah, Igloo Letterpress. They're going to be bringing their machine down and teaching people how to letterpress and coming up with cool prints and giving sort of the history. Allison Chapman, the founder of Igloo Letterpress, has been a supporter of WMC Fest for several years now, and so she is really excited to be able to teach. And so just an FYI on these workshops, the room holds about 40 people, and there will be a separate ticket admission to each of these workshops because it's such short seating, limited seating, and we've seen good response from that so far. And then the Good Times and Collaboration workshop is coming back to WMC. So last year we experimented with it, and the Dan Casaro and Dan Christofferson, and with help from Nate Utesh, did this small little workshop last year, and then they took it to Creative South, whereas a bunch of artists can collaborate on drawing stuff and combining type and illustration, and then they will produce like it's a 2-day workshop where they'll talk about it, introduce the concept, get people working on things together, and then the next day they'll finish it up. So that's going to be cool. And Adobe is going to be giving a workshop on some sort of features in new upcoming Creative Suite.
Which that's going to be the person doing they're actually going to do a talk on the main stage.
Yes, someone from Adobe, which I don't want to announce the name right now because he's not confirmed publicly yet, but it's really close in the back end here. We're almost confirmed with it. But they're going to have a principal designer that works for Adobe giving a talk, and then they're going to be doing a demo workshop. So we'll be participating quite a bit this year. So we're super stoked about the partnership with Adobe.
I think that's going to be really cool. Just again, like thinking future forward, and in terms of product design, and especially with Adobe being like the leading software service out there for creatives. So I think it's going to be really relevant and interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And so the special events, we are working hard to bring Ink Wars back to WMC. That was a cool, a really fun thing last year. Aaron Seacrest, OK Pants, took home the belt the first year.
He's a 2-time champion now.
And Ink Wars Volume 2 went on down in Columbus, Georgia a few months ago, and OK Pants took home the belt again.
So we're going to have to see. So the gauntlet is being laid down out there by OK Pants, who I'm sure is really, he's probably practicing and training to be a 3-time trifecta Ink Wars champion.
And it's put their vote is by judges, so it's not like I don't know if there's any favoritism going on. He wasn't on in his hometown in Columbus, Georgia, and he still won. So
I'm sure he's got some kind of big canvas. I could just see Pants. I hope you're listening too. That he's got some contraption in his garage where like he spins a wheel and it's like it lands on squirrel, and then he goes over and is trying to like paint down a squirrel as quickly as possible. He's training. I know it. I know it. He's like Rocky.
That's how you got to win at Ink Wars. So.
Hey, yeah.
So, I mean, if you haven't heard of Ink Wars, it's a 8-person, 8-on-8 drawing battle, 4-foot by 8-foot canvas, black markers only, and you get announced the theme right before you start drawing. So basically, you're given a little backpack with supplies. So you show up, you get the supplies, you can only use that. You get the theme, you draw something on that theme. You got 60 minutes. The countdown goes down. There's a DJ. There's the crowd of people surrounding you, watching you draw. So. We haven't selected who's going to be participating in that yet. We're still working on the organization of Ink Wars, but we really hope to have it to happen again at WMC.
Is there a deadline just in case anyone wants to apply?
I think what Matt and I are going to do is once we get some of the things settled down, we are going to put up an online webpage that allows people to vote on who they want to. They can submit and vote on the artist, or submit their work, get considered to be an artist, and then so we'll figure that out. But cool. That's a good idea. I would like to be able to get some audience participation and all that stuff. So that's good. And the music lineup is booked. We're having a lot less bands this year, but it's mostly going to sort of be after party / evening content / take a break, kind of content, and we're still working on booking our headliner band.
A few headliners to announce, but I think the feather in our hat this year is after 4 years. I think it's been of trying to work out a schedule with Mr. Gnome. So I'm kind of excited to see them play on the big stage at Cleveland Public Theater.
Oh yeah,
it's their music is really, really cool. If you haven't checked them out, and I think they're a really good kind of mix of other regional bands that will be playing as well. And I think unless you want to talk, I was going to say I could talk a little bit about the venue, but if you want to talk about the designers first.
Sure. So the Vendor Village Gallery is moving upstairs this year. So we're going to have, since we're partnering with the National Poster Retrospecticus, there's going to be 300 odd posters, mostly focused on gig posters, rock posters, and art prints up on the walls from nearly 100 artists. And so WMC, like in years past, we will feature 20 artists and put them on the sort of WMC roster this year, and we're taking some of those from the lineup that the National Poster Retrospecticus has, and then we're also filling in some gaps with our own selections, local, regional artists, and stuff like that. So that will be taking place, and then some of the speakers that we've got booked. I'm pretty excited about Grace Bonney from Design Sponge. She was on a candidate last year, but couldn't commit to scheduling. But this year, she's finally going to be gracing the stage at WMC. She's an inspiration. And Keenan Cummings, I'm really interested in seeing too. I mean, if you go to the website right now, there's not a whole lot of speakers booked, but we are still confirming a bunch for the panels and the Designers Debate Club, which you'll really see a lot of different opinions there.
I think if you go to the website and you're like, wow, where is everybody, or where is it, like the panels and speakers and stuff, so everybody kind of knows we're like spiraling down into our last of scheduling and confirming and all those fun logistics, and then I think in the next 2 weeks you'll start to see a lot of that content fill up on the website. Though, don't wait too long because you can still get your ticket now before it goes up in price. It jumps $15 on June 15th. So don't wait too long if you're thinking about buying a ticket because that price will jump up on June 15th. So go over to WMCFest.com and get your ticket today.
Yep, and they're $70 for the super early bird price, and they'll be $85 on June 15th,
right.
And then they go up to $100 on August 1st. So now's the cheapest time to buy a ticket. For all of you who just trust us that we're going to put together a good lineup, you believe in the fest, and you know you're going to come. So definitely get your ticket now. Now, one of the things that you may notice too is on the speaker roster, we had deliberately had reduced the number of talks going on at the fest. We slimmed down a little bit because when we would do 10 talks per day, we heard from people, especially Margot and Stu, who had attended in years past. They feel like it is kind of exhausting to see 10 different talks, and then especially for people who really like to sit and watch every single one. They don't want to miss anything. So there's so much going on, they feel like they miss out other parts of the festival. So what we're doing is deliberately breaking up some stuff. We're going to put a break in there for people to allow them to go explore the rest of the event and go get some lunch. We're going to make sure that there's time to have dinner and go hang out with your friends and go network and go react to the talk that you just had, have a chance to talk about it. And then we're making the talks themselves better quality too. So
yeah, I think that overall, every year we kind of seem to transition WMC a bit, and I think this year that could be kind of summarized of quality over quantity this year. So, and I think we're like Jeff said, we're kind of changing the way that we use the venue as well. So, I mean, anybody who attended last year, the venue, as I always spoke of last year, and again I will this year, that the venue itself is just another experience or facet of experience at WMC. This year, like Jeff said, we're going to be, if you attended last year, we had a stage upstairs, so we've taken that out and actually expanded the vendor village and some of the interactive elements. Jack Prince, I know, is going to have a photo booth up there, and there's going to be, I think, lots of interactive elements up there. Of course, we'll have a bar, which is very interactive.
And Real Thread is going to be allowing people to screen print their own WMC
really cool.
Fest T-shirt designs. So they did this at Creative South, whereas there's unique WMC T-shirt designs that you can go up there and print yourself. So those will be. He's actually working on the website for you to sort of pre-order your spot, buy the T-shirt, and then you get to print it yourself. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So I think we're trying to imbibe a little bit more of like Jeff said, of that quality, and then we're also outside. We're going to do a much larger beer garden this year. We're actually going to have a small stage out there. And none of the programming really overlaps. We've kind of did the programming and scheduling so everything really complements everything, and you're not going to miss out on anything. During, like Jeff said, we're going to have some breaks from the speakers, and at that time we'll have some bands playing outside. We're going to have a large tent over that area, over the beer garden. So a little bit more interactivity and I think a little bit more focus on the scheduling and programming that we're doing. So
how's your stress level at this point in planning, Todd?
It is crazy right now because I think we're in that mode where we're coming to the end of scheduling, which is just a crazy time for all of us.
Scheduling/booking.
Yeah, for Jeff and I and our team members, that it's kind of that rush to the finish line, and then we move into the kind of the promotion, which is the part I love. It's talking about what we're doing, which is a fun part. So, stress level is running a little high.
Yeah, we're trying to wrap up sponsorship. We're trying to wrap up just all the booking and all the content. So once we get all the workshops finalized and the tickets available to those workshops live up there for purchase, and then all the sponsors locked in, and I got to send all the posters and marketing materials to print. So that's why we have to hurry up on the sponsors. But of course, if anyone wants to sponsor us after we've already sent stuff to print, I mean, I'm not going to turn down a potential sponsor.
Right.
So I'll work with whatever the limitations we have. I'll make sure that the sponsor gets in there. I know that we still have some pending sponsorship requests coming in. Even for food donations and stuff like that, we're still working those things out, like XYZ and Earth Fair, and I think Root Cafe wants to donate some bakery and some coffee for the volunteers.
Speaking of which, I'll just
the cafe
real quick. Gypsy Beans Coffee is going to be returning as well. We're going to have Anna in the Raw, who's a local culinary superstar, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much.
She's one of those culinary luminaries of Cleveland. And the amazing, she's going to have some raw food, which I'm if anybody ever sees me, I drink my Starbucks double shot. I'm a big consumer of junk food, and whenever I see Anna, she makes me feel so good because the food that I eat that she makes is so awesome, and it's all raw, so it's really good stuff. So I'm really happy to see what she kind of creates in there in the cafe as well. So I think a little bit more expanded kind of cafe as well. That's going to be in a little bit of a different location. It's going to be downstairs, so a little bit more easier access. So that's going to be cool too.
So let's talk about the days. So Friday night is the Mixer, the opening night, and it's actually sponsored by MailChimp. They purchased the naming rights to it, which I'm not quite sure how that's going to affect the programming. I think they're probably going to donate some like little chimp action figures and maybe print some T-shirts for the attendees like they did last year. Yep. That's cool. But we've got a lineup of bands, and we've also got the breakdance event going on in one of the rooms too. So an attendee can show up with their weekend pass and see all of this stuff, or you can just pay $10 and get in at the door to see the bands, go see the breakdance event, dance yourself, participate, watch the 2-on-2 battle. There's a $400 cash prize and judges from Michigan and Cincinnati and hosted by Tony Fresh here in Cleveland. So and also put on by City Break Studio, which is the sort of premier hip hop culture community studio in Cleveland, and that's really cool. And then we're gonna, after the last band plays, we're gonna have a DJ for like a Friday night WMC Fest dance party. So hopefully some of the b-boys from the battle will come over and be getting down, and then hopefully all of our art, design, nerd, geek people also dance as well. You know, our typical crowd, right? Hopefully we all get down and we have a good time Friday night to kick things off. Saturday starts up at 11 o'clock. We're actually opening doors an hour earlier this year. Actually, I think we're opening doors at 10 because if the first talk starts at 11, we got to open up earlier. Yeah. But the talks are going to go from 11 till 8, and then the workshops are also going on during that time. Again, those are separate ticket purchases. So you can either see talks, see some bands, go to the vendor gallery, hang out there, go to the cafe. Beer garden, yeah, and you can kind of come and go as you please all day. Then at night there's going to be our headlining music lineup, and then after party. So that's what I loved about Creative South is they have all the educational content in the day, and then at night it's just like your shirt can come unbuttoned at that point, and you can just you can just get down or whatever. So we've got Ink Wars is happening on Saturday night if I can get it solidified. And then, the headlining band, which we're currently working on booking. We should have an announcement next week about that. We're really hopeful on that. Then Sunday is more of the same, as different speakers, different workshops and stuff like that going on. And we will have, we'll close it out on a lighthearted note with a lineup of stand-up comedy. And we're going to end early Sunday night because we know all you guys got to travel back to your state and work and whatever you got to do, get back to real life.
Right. But yeah, I mean, if you're able to, I highly recommend people, hanging out for the comedy show. It's going to be, it's being curated by Ramon Rivas, who everybody in Cleveland knows from his chuckle. I don't know if I am allowed to say that, whatever, but his comedy events. And he's working with the founders of Cards Against Humanity. With that, who's going to be a sponsor of the comedy show. So undoubtedly, it will be a great kind of way to kind of find some laughter as a great way to kind of close out WMC this year. So
yeah, because WMC tendency has there's like a mix between fun and interactive, and then you've got some really heavy sort of issues that we're going to be talking about. And if you've seen talks in the past, sometimes the talks are pretty heavy, and you're like, oh my God, I feel like really emotional right now. And then you want to have the next thing to help bring you back up and balance you out, So that's why we are bringing comedy back in. It's a great way to close out the night.
And that's going to be on the main stage.
On the main
stage this year to close out WMC Fest. So a little bit different way, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
And I do want to say that the merch this year is going to be off the hook because we had some brand new designs from Mary Kate McDevitt.
Which look awesome.
Really, really cool.
Really cool.
I should be getting those very soon. Jack Prince is going to be printing up some hoodies for us and some beanies for the winter. So I know you don't need a beanie now, It's going to be summertime, but come winter, you're going to be really glad you got that WMC.
I'm getting them. I'm going to get a couple of those.
Yeah, I know.
I need backup.
Yeah. So like, we've had requests for some, warm weather WMC gear. So I'm stoked that Jack Prince is going to print those up for us. Yeah, and stickers, of course. Sticker Mule has given us a bunch more stickers, and you'll see that I've taken the stickers to the next level, so to speak, if that makes any sense. I want to be able to, a lot of those phrases that we talk about, like embrace the struggle or, defy the hand you're dealt, a lot of these types of mantras that we have, especially if you've seen any of our videos, these little typographic pieces, we're bringing those back and putting them on stickers and stuff like that. So, it's not just WMC Fest logos on stickers, but a cool phrase that really means something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think like I said, every year it transitions, it grows in its own way. I think Jeff and I have also talked about the future of WMC, and I think we've got some exciting things kind of planned for 2015 as well. So every year it seems to grow bigger and better, and I think this year's will not fail. So hopefully everybody comes out. And kind of like I said, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and it's a great way to just kind of find some support. And like we said, it's probably the cheapest group therapy you can buy in certain terms. That I don't know where else you can pay $75 or $100 to go meet 2,000 really cool, awesome people from basically all over the world. And find resources and inspiration and message that will help you grow as a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm most excited about, which is not even part of the content, it's just the community, just the friends coming back. Like, that's not something that we can curate, and make a lineup. Or we as a team, we do our part to put together speakers and bands and workshops and stuff like that we feel are good and going to provide good value, and the things that are going to help us grow, or things that have inspired us we want to share with everyone. But really the experience of WMC is so much about the friends and the family and the community that interacts inside this environment,
Right.
And that happens sort of magically. And then we're lucky that the people that have attended in years past are proud enough to come back to Cleveland and then relive that experience and make new friends and reunite again. And that's sort of like my vision kind of coming to life too. And what I've seen by going to Creative South is a lot of the same people that were at WMC were at Creative South, and it's like, hey, here we are again, all of us. We are traveling around, we are learning, we are helping each other. It's so great, that's what I really look forward to. So there's this small little circuit building of community-driven events based around the creative entrepreneur, the artist, the designer, and our day and our lifestyle.
And just to kind of come full circle, I will say too that Jeff and I, one of the other things that nobody really sees on the backside, that Jeff and I have really put some emphasis and focus on relationship building here in the community too. And I can say, coming back to our earlier conversation, that the Councilman Matt Zone has definitely stepped up and has lent support. The city in general is very supportive of WMC. We're continuing an ongoing discussion with the city as how that support can be shaped. We've also seen some direct support from the Rock Hall this year as well. One of the cool things is we're working with the Rock Hall to extend the National Poster Retrospecticus, as Jeff had talked about earlier. That's going to move from WMC over to the Rock Hall, so those artists are going to get some greater exposure there as well. So, and we've been talking with the Cleveland Museum of Art. So a lot of these things, as I said, happen on behind the scenes, but we're looking at how we can integrate ourselves. We don't want to be one of those people out there who shout about, yeah, you should integrate more into the community, and then we actually, as an event for creatives, we don't. So we've put some focus to that as well this year, in trying to work with the Cleveland Museum of Art, some of these other larger entities, and see how we can integrate those communities into the WMC community. So it's pretty awesome what's happening on the backside. Aside from everything on the front side, it's been a pretty interesting and awesome year on the backside too.
Cool.
One thing before we close it out, I mean, there has also been some discussion about doing a live edition of the Go Media podcast at WMC Fest. So I think we're still working out details as far as what that content will be. Probably do some interviews with speakers and other people involved, and we just have to figure out when and how that's going to fit in. But
Awesome.
I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
August 15, 16, 17, coming up fast.
Yeah, 78, 77
78 days, I think, from today, or 77 days. So, yeah, get your tickets, like I said, before June 15th.
Yeah.
And we hope to see everybody out at Cleveland Public Theater in August for good times.
Okay. For more information about Go Media and the work we do, you can check out gomedia.us, and we'd love to hear what you think about this conversation as well as what you'd like to hear in upcoming episodes. You can tweet us at go_media, post on our Facebook wall, or send an email to podcast@gomedia.us. We'll also have some photos that Heather was taking up on our Instagram account a little bit later on today, and you can also leave a comment on the YouTube video feed. Todd, how can people get a hold of you if they would like to?
Oh, just yell my name anywhere around Cleveland, and I will hear it. I can usually be found at the Beachland as a marketing director there, but most nights. But no, you can reach me on Twitter at @theeventsguru, and you can also reach me all over the social media sphere. I'm on just about every little platform there is, but tweet at me.
Okay. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Jeff_Finley, Bill at William_Beachy, and me at Brian Garvin. We'll talk again in June, so see you then.
Bye, guys.